it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Envision Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Portillo, joined by my lovely co-host and wife, Lynn Portillo.
Hey, guys.
Welcome back. Super excited to have you guys for another episode. This is episode 15, and it's crazy to think, I say this every week, but I really do mean this. It's crazy to think that we're 15 episodes in. I think we're still learning as we go. Definitely still learning as we go, I should say. Each week is a different journey. I promise you, I'm going to say this right now, I promise you, the battery is charged on the camera. So we should not have that mistake anymore. Learn from that mistake. I made those adjustments.
He did. I came in and I was like, oh, did we charge it? And he had it in the wall ready.
Yep. Not playing around anymore. I will admit I need to get another battery. Like, I think it's just good to have a spare battery ready, or get one that lasts longer. I think that, those definitely I would assume exist, as well as maybe just look at updating some equipment too. I think that we are getting more consistent. I will be honest and say that our routine needs to get fine-tuned again. When we first started, we had a much better routine. These last couple of weeks, things have happened and we've had to record kind of at all, not the most ideal hours, I would say, but we're still getting it done. And so I would say, there's just some additional equipment we need to look into. Maybe eventually we need to get a mic for you and I think it just will sound cleaner. And so again, we're learning. This is actually, next week we will match the amount of episodes we did at Anime Note.
The week after, we got 17 episodes.
We did, okay.
Anime Note. The last one was about Naruto. And then once we get to episode 18, we have surpassed the
Anime Note. And so, I think that's something that I want to start looking at is some additional equipment, just thinking of ways that we can better, utilize our space. I think it'd be nice to have a little bit of an extra light here. That way it can eliminate some of our shadows. I do know that that's something that we have not, we've noticed, but we haven't addressed. And so, again, just keeping it honest, keeping it transparent. We're learning we're learning along with you guys. If you haven't done a podcast, you're interested in doing a podcast, I would just say just start. I've learned throughout life, and that's really what our episode is about today, is not being afraid of failure. But I've learned throughout life, and I continuously get reminded by life, that if you're constantly worrying about being fully prepared or being perfect in what you're doing, that's just, one, it's wasted time, and two, it kind of paralyzes you, and you're never going to start, and you could never start. And so just jump into it. If there's something that you're interested in trying, do a little bit of research, find out where to start, find a mentor. I think that is one thing that we're still working through, trying to figure out, who can help mentor us through podcasting, through this kinds of things that we're trying to create. But one thing that I do know that will help is finding a mentor, finding a coach. For me, the easiest way that I can relate it is when I got myself, when I found a fitness coach that I retained, and he helped me on my 1-year journey. Shout out to you, Goku Flex. Thank you for everything you've done for me. You definitely, his philosophy is he wants to teach you how to fish and not just give you fish, right? So we've all heard that saying most likely in our lifetime, but so that's his philosophy. He wants to teach you how to do things, what you need to do, how to count macros, how to adjust, which macros and all that was completely new to me when I started working with him. And so I learned a lot, learned about different muscles and different exercises that attack different muscles. Is just so there's wealth in finding the right coach, finding the right person who can help you. So definitely can help you get a leg, placing your best foot forward, or getting you ahead of the game, finding a mentor, finding a coach.
I agree.
What have you ever had coaches or any experiences like that where you want to start something and there's someone that's already doing it and that you ask for their advice or ask for their input?
Well, I actually had his coach, which was really awesome to learn. Definitely hard. Like, he challenged me and pushed me, but I learned all about the macros, about different workouts and stuff. So now I have that knowledge and background, so I'm able to continue that and grow in new ways. But having that foundation from a coach really helped, because I didn't really know anywhere around in a gym. I always did sports and stuff to stay active and healthy, so he really helped me with that. So he was my coach. I've had other coaches, like sports and Aikido and stuff like that. I guess a mentor, not really a mentor because I don't really talk to her, but inspiration, who I've learned from is the YouTuber I watch Isabel Page. She does a lot of like homesteading kind of things, and I took a lot of information from there, and that's what made me start sourdough.
Yeah.
And what made me learn. And I kept thinking it was really complicated, and like what Alex was saying, you know, you're just paralyzed. You never want to start. But I was like, you know what? If it dies, it dies. Because she had an episode where she's like, my starter died, so let's bring it back to life. And I'm like, if she, like, it just shows that, you know, they're people too.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to make mistakes. And I'm like, okay, her starter died, and she's able to get it back working. So, you know what? I'm going to do it. And that's when I just took the plunge and tried to make it in, like, the worst possible time of the year, the coldest time of December. And it did die. And I made people have some tummy aches, but I got it back to life, and now it's thriving, and I made some cinnamon sugar bread like I said I wasn't going to do on the last podcast for him, but oh well.
It sounded good to her, so she made it.
It looks pretty, though.
But you know what? I want to talk about that. I want to talk about two things you said there. One, mentors, or people we look at as mentors, but we may not necessarily know on a first name or even maybe in-person basis, right? And so I want to touch upon that, but let's go to the second point. We'll work our way backwards. You know, can you share how you being inspired by someone else helped you get started, gave you that courage to get started, but then how you've also been able to share that gift with other people, and how essentially you've shared your starter with others, and now they're on their, you know, sourdough journey or their baking journey. And so we can all tie it back to, at least from our friends, from our circle of people that we know, it could be tied back to your starter.
Yeah, it's really cool, actually, because I feel like in society nowadays, we don't really want to share the knowledge. Mm-hmm. You know, you want to keep the wealth to yourself. Yeah. It's not, let's see how we can help people, which is what we always are trying, like, what we're focusing on right now is finding, like, our purpose to help people.
Correct.
Through God, like, in God's purpose for us.
Correct.
So I feel like Isabel sharing her life and everything, she's encouraging me. I felt encouraged and inspired to start the sourdough. And along with that, I started talking about it and got really excited and passionate about it. And my friends and family heard, and that made them be like, oh, like, this is making Lynn strangely happy. Mm-hmm. Like, why is that? Like, how is she doing this, and what is it? So it piqued people's curiosity. So I was like, hey, want some of my starter? I think I can give it to you. I don't really know, but let's try it. And I started packing mason jars. I would make some active starter and then teach them what to do, which it's actually so simple once you start, but you don't know until you start. So thanks goodness I started. But I gave it to about 4 people. 2 killed it, but that's okay. They tried. And then the 2 who kept it going gave it to their family members and a friend. And actually, there's one other who I just found out was giving it to others. So it's really been, like, spreading. And then so some people gave it to their family members, and their family members gave it away.
Correct.
Some gave it to a friend, and then they gave it to another friend. So it's just so cool to see. Like, my starter was the original one, and it wasn't like, there's starters that are 100 years old that stay within families. Yeah. So that's my goal now, is I'm just going to keep my starter going. And I have already been teaching Rhaegar how to make sourdough. Yeah. So one of our friends accidentally bought mini proofing baskets, and she was like, I can't make anything with this. It's like tiny. And so I asked, can I have it? Because it's Rhaegar sized bread. Yeah. So every time I make bread weekly now, I make a Rhaegar sized bread just because. But I'm teaching him so he can take the starter and keep it going. And Alex, if I don't have money, if we don't set up anything for Rhaegar, my sourdough will be our legacy, and it's going to live through.
You've taught him life skills. But you know what? I think it'd be great. I mean, you can throw a picture of him on there.
With his bread. He's made it a few times.
Because it's really cute to see him, how he interacts. And we just bought him some, like, baby utensils at IKEA, which worked out really good.
And then I found pots and pans, like the stainless steel pots and pans, so he can use the utensils with it. You can't, like, actually cook with it, I guess. I don't know. I might experiment. We'll see if he can make some eggs or something. But I want him to have the toys that are not actually toys. It's life skill toys. Yeah. And he loves them. He's banging them around, and honestly, it's not even that annoying. I bang him around, so he's just like me.
That's awesome. No, it's really cool to see that. And the first time that you made the sourdough with him. I mean, his hands were all over the plate, or the dough was all over his hands. Is what I'm saying.
I had to keep him from
and
eating it. It was
correct.
like,
But it was just cool to see him interact, and he was so happy. And I was at work when you sent me those pictures, so it just kind of made my day. But it's cool to be able, like I said, to relate all of this, to go back and say, okay, someone, you know, from you passing on your sourdough, you were inspired by someone, and then that got you, okay, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna do it. You started doing it. People saw that it was bringing you joy, or maybe they wanted to do it and they just didn't know where to start.
They saw the product too, because I was handing it out like
correct, and you were
like
able
candy.
to. Yep.
I was just like, take some bread, because I got into a phase where I was baking like 12 loaves a week.
Right, and you were just giving. I mean, we couldn't eat 12 loaves of bread a day.
No, and I'm not gonna freeze that many either.
Right, and so Lynn was just like, hey, like, she would ask me, who is there anyone you want to give sourdough to? And so sure, I took some to work and I started handing them out, and then that's how you found some people too that wanted to learn, and so you gave them some of your starter as well, and so it's just cool to be able to you know.
Yeah, I was just talking to her yesterday actually about it, and she made the cinnamon swirl bread too.
Yep. I told her to get with you on that one. But no, what I was gonna say, it's just really cool to see how if you just have a little bit of courage to try something and do something that you really want to do, or that you're just curious about, and you go out and do it, how it could impact other people as well. Because I mean, you hear this in school or in work all the time. If you have a question, like you're doing a Q&A session or there's a rollout or whatever, and people will sometimes won't ask questions for either a fear of looking silly or fear of that they should know this and they don't know it, or whatever their reasons may be. But a lot of times people don't ask questions. And we've talked about before how this is just conditioned out of you through school and just society. You're taught to know
answers,
not ask questions, right? And so it's just cool to be able to see that, hey, you took that chance and you went for it, and then that influenced other people in our life to say, you know what, that's always maybe something I've always wanted to try, or hey, it brings Lynn a lot of joy. That looks really cool. I want to give it, whatever their reason may be. It came back. It gave them the encouragement to then go out and do it. And for the ones that weren't successful their first time, that's totally fine. We were able to help them out again. You gave them some additional ones, and then from there they've been thriving and things have been going well. And sometimes it's going to be where you try something, it doesn't work out, and you're like, okay, well, you know, this wasn't for me,
and
but
you
at
don't
least
like it,
but at least you tried it, and so that's the important thing. So yeah, I think that's really cool how you were able to do that.
You know, I don't know if it really relates. Well, it relates. So I think it's also important to note that I was influenced by an influencer, a social media person. That's her job. That's her career, is making videos and stuff. And for a while there, and Alex actually pushed me kind of to start the sourdough, because I was kind of romanticizing, glamorizing her life. I was like, wow, that just looks so nice. She's making sourdough, she's baking all the time, she's out in the forest. That sounds so amazing. Like, I want that. And I kept saying that over and over again. Like, wow, like, I love this. It just puts me in such a good mood watching these videos, because that's the life I want to have. And we all do that. That's what it is now in social media. You're scrolling through your phone wanting the lives of all these other people. And we need to use them not as influencers where they're promoting products and we want to buy what they're buying because you're glamorizing their life. You're like, wow, I wish I had that money. Wow, I wish I traveled to those places. And you're just constantly scrolling and wanting these things. But use them and take the concept of a mentor or a coach and start. Like, actually start. So I started, and yes, I don't have her life, but I have my own life where I created memories and I'm teaching things and passing it on to my son, and I'm getting joy out of starting that sourdough. And that started me on making jams and homemade butter, and now I'm going to be canning for the garden. So it's created my own path of how I want to set up my life and life for us by using her more as a mentor instead of just sitting behind the screen saying, wow, I wish I could have that. So I think it's a good thing to think about is all these things you feel inspired by or you wish you had, start it and try it. Maybe you don't, that's not even what you want, like Alex said. So you could try it and you think it's something you want, but you don't know until you try. So you could be glamorizing someone's life and try it and you're like, wow, no, I like where I'm at. So it could humble you and make you appreciate and have gratitude. Or it can send you on a whole new path and you could be trying something, be successful in it, make a career out of it, or just do something you really love that brings you joy.
Correct. Yeah, I think that is often forgotten, that you could give something a try that you really want to do, or you feel like you really want to do, and then you end up doing it, but you end up not liking it. And that's totally fine, but at least you gave it a shot. I think it's worse to go through life and say, be at towards the end of your life or older in life and be like, damn, I should have done this when I was younger. I know we've had those conversations, and there's things that I wish I would have done prior to us getting into a serious relationship. An example that I think I've given it before here is studying abroad, right? And once you and I entered more into a serious relationship, I don't know, to me it just felt weird to be able to go abroad and be gone for half a year to a year,
It also closes you off from experiences if I couldn't go.
Correct. Right. I agree with that. And so...
Because you don't want to play with fire either.
Correct. But from the point that I was trying to make is that, well, 2 points. One was that, but then the other one was, it's easier to take risks while you're younger, because time is more on your side than when you're older. Now, if you're in your 20s, late teens, when you're 18 and into your 20s, definitely that's the time to start taking risks and try different things, adventure off on different careers, move to a different state, all that good stuff. In your 30s, it's not that you can't do it, it's just life may have changed for you. You may have a family, you may have a child, you may have children, whatever. Life circumstances may change for you, and so now you have other things to consider. Still not too late to try it, and that's not what I'm saying.
I think it's always good to
but
try.
I would say, if I could tell myself, a younger version of myself, one piece of advice, it would be take risks. Take risks and try things while you're young, and don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of figuring things out. Just start.
Yeah.
Correct. So that brings us back to the second point I wanted to talk, and just people, so either social media or authors or even people who, may not be alive anymore, but people that are influential to you or influential to us, and viewing them as mentors. So I want to get your thoughts on that. What do what do you think of that? Do you feel like, would you look at Isabel as a mentor? Would you look at Isabel as someone who you're like, okay, you mentioned it before, she kind of lives a lifestyle that I want to live. Therefore, different things, different tips and tactics, different value that she's bringing into your life. Would you consider her a mentor, or what are your thoughts with that?
I would consider her a mentor, and if she somehow finds this, thanks for encouraging me to start sourdough. I watch her videos every week, because I think there's a clear difference between what I get from her and then other videos and stuff I'm watching. So I did a big clean out on social media because I was getting bogged down by constantly watching YouTube videos, seeing people's lives, but they weren't enhancing it in any way. It was entertainment, or who knows? Like, I feel like we just comparison.
You dealt with a lot of comparison.
Yeah, that was a big thing of me comparing my life to others, and just looks, all those things that we all compare ourselves to. So I only follow like 4 people that I primarily watch, and I would say 2 of those are mentors because of what they are working towards, what they're doing. I wouldn't say coach, because I'm not interacting with them. They're not giving me steps to follow.
Fair point.
And I'm not paying them for a service. But I get inspired watching those videos. It's something I do on a regular basis, whether it's a video posted monthly or a video posted weekly. After I watch the videos, most of the time I take action on, she made pasta, I'm going to try to make pasta.
Yeah.
I saw her do this recipe, I'm going to try that. She started a garden. There's a bunch, it's not just Isabel, but another YouTuber I follow who also does stuff like that, has a garden. I want to start a garden. I want to try this. I want to do canning. They cause me to take action instead of sit there and be like, man, I wish I had that life.
Yeah.
So I would consider, I think you have to look at it from a lens of, are you getting something from it and it's motivating you or pushing you to do something, or are you watching a video and you're just saying, I want to do that, I want to be a gamer, that sounds so fun, like let's do that, just sort of, what are you watching the video for.
Yeah.
From me, mine are only YouTube influencers because I don't have any other social media. But I know like Instagram and Snapchat and those places have. I don't know how mentoring would be taken from there because it's more short form content.
Yeah. No, I think you bring up a really, really good point in terms of defining what would be a mentor and what would be a coach. Because I agree with you. I think that if you find people who influence you and influence you to improve your life, I would say. Like, I always make that distinction because I don't want people to be like, well, I've always wanted to try something that you probably shouldn't be trying or something that's not good for you, and then, boom, you go out and try that. No, when I say, like, try and take risks.
Or
Or
buying
over-consumerism.
products,
But when I say, try different things, it's things that are going to make you a better person. Things that are going to strengthen you. Things that are going to make you a better contributing member to society. Things that are going to make you just better overall human being. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I think that there is a difference between coaching and mentoring now that you bring that up. And so what I was going to say is you can find people who influence you to do good things, right? And you can consider them mentors. I definitely have people who I consider mentors that don't know me like on a one-on-one basis, and I would say that there's kind of like an in-between level. An example, I've talked about him many times, is Dr. Eric Thomas. Now, he's not coaching us on a one-on-one kind of scenario, but we have been a part of his community where we are paying for their service. We are paying to be to go through their masterminds and things like that. And so we've made connections. We've formed
conferences.
Yep, we've gone to conferences. We've made connections through that. I took it a little further, and I went through a speaking program called Game Changers, and so that was a little bit more of an intimate setting. And I got to know, it was like a class of, I think there was 14 in my class, and so I was able to know them more on a one-on-one setting. And so that was, that's a whole different conversation. But I would say that in between they're coaching, they're mentoring. I don't know what the right word is there, but definitely more on the coach side versus the mentoring side.
I think that's a good span because after ET, closer to coach would be King.
Jamal King, yeah.
Because he actually was coaching in those sessions for you to make real estate real.
Correct. And so, at least for me, to that point, I'm very big on self-development. I mentioned this a couple of times here, and I'm trying to count in my head real quick. I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 different courses in the last 3 years with different people, different mentors that I can look at as coaches now because, one, I am able to be in a setting where I can ask them questions, or I'm able to be in an environment where I can talk about, hey, what's going on, and get their advice. And I get their coaching and things like that. And so I think that's... I guess to go back to my point, what I was trying to drive there is that what I said earlier, if you want to take a step, if you want to be ahead of the game in whatever you're trying to try, definitely finding a coach, someone who can coach you and get you through those right steps early on, it will save you a lot of headache and may save you a lot of failures at the beginning, and definitely would be there to encourage you, right? Because sometimes trying things on your own is when you feel like things aren't going the way they're supposed to be going. I think that could be one of the most impactful things that deter you from continuing to try again. But the other point, the main point I was trying to make was the mentor side, is it's okay to find people that inspire you to do good. Again, that inspire you to do good and to look at them as a mentor, even if you don't know them. Like there's several people on either social media or authors that I follow or podcast speakers that I follow that I'm like, yeah, like I really appreciate what they're saying. I really appreciate their point of view. I really appreciate what they stand for, what they're about. And so I look at them as mentors. And you've heard me, again, I've said this a couple of times, but you'll hear me through the podcast say like, oh, my mentor. I think I need to make that distinction now of my mentor and coach. But, so I appreciate that point of view.
I think this conversation kind of hopped right in, but you have a bunch of, do you have like any specific mentors versus coaches currently that you are kind of taking inspiration for to start stuff? Because I know that's something that you're wanting to work on, is starting.
I would say that this really segues us into, like I said, what our topic was going to be about, which is failure or fear of failure, really is what it is. That's a great question because how do I answer it? I have, in my immediate circle, like the people that we know, there are a few people who I would look at as like my confidants, that I would go to them, my consigliers. Wow. I love my mafia movies, so, right? But those are the people that I go to for advice. Hey, this is what I'm going through with my life. what do you think? Or here's how I'm looking at it. What do you think? What are your opinions? So I do have a small circle of people like that who I can go to. Now, in terms of your question, I think was more for if there's something I want to do I have a person who's in my life that I can go to start that process? A mentor or a coach. I would say on a one-on-one personal setting, no. And that's not a shot to any of my friends or anything like, or any family or anything like that. But
some people
at least
just don't have the background.
Well, correct. They don't have the background, or they're not in the position of where I want to get to, or they're not building what I'm trying to build.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't have that on a personal level. From a mentor or paying for someone to mentor you or coach you, yes, there is one that I'm learning a lot of like investing stuff from. I'm a part of the community, of his community of like Q&As and different things like that, and we meet kind of on a weekly basis as a team or as a group. So yeah, I do have those opportunities, and then there's another one that I've had in the past for real estate that I let kind of like my membership lapse because I wasn't at that time. It was when we were just trying to figure out what the next steps were for us.
Yeah.
And so I kind of let that membership lapse, but I'm thinking about redoing it again because I did learn a lot of knowledge. I did make a lot of connections through that group. And that's another thing I want to mention is sometimes we get so hyper focused on, okay, I'll use ET again. I'm in Eric Thomas's community. How can I get to work with Eric Thomas on a one-on-one or a more personal basis? And we forget that other people who are all in that circle, other people who are in that environment have other skills or have other knowledge that could still help you get to where you want to get to. And sometimes it's easier to, most of the times it's easier to connect with them than it is, to get directly to ET. And so something that I've learned is a lot of times we feel like we can ride the coattails of someone else's success to build our own success, when in reality we need to build our own table. And I say that I've learned that because for a long time that's what I believed. I believed that if I could just be friends with this person, I will be successful. And in reality is when you're successful already, you're looking for other people who are successful that can add value. Add value to your table, add value to your team versus taking, right? And so what I was trying to make there, the point I was trying to make there is you forget that these other people are also on that journey, and sometimes you just, you network and you find people that you can make connections with, that you have similar interest with, and then you never know, you start building that team within yourself, but it's all connected.
Yeah, right? But it has to start with you. You have to have something, because people aren't going to go to someone that's leaning on them either.
Yep.
And then you guys start with the foundation and then build something bigger.
Yep. And then it all ties back, right? You still have the mentor, the coach that you both are following, that you both are paying for their services, but over here now you're building something by yourself. And so again, maybe if I could give myself 2 pieces of knowledge is, as a younger version of myself, is that, right? Don't be afraid to take risks, but also be the best version of yourself and add value to the people who you're interacting with. Jamal King, you just mentioned him. He's one of my mentors. He is my real estate mentor coach. He says your level of exposure determines your level of success. That's one of the things he says that I absolutely love. But the other quote he says is your network determines your net worth. Completely agree with that, because it's a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know.
100%. Life is...
It's a game of connections. It's a game of connections. It's a game of networking, and that's something that, thankfully, my high eyesight.
He's very good at it. I'm not good at that, so
that helps me.
Yeah, he's very good at networking and just getting to know people, and that's so important. I feel like I know so many people who have had opportunities, even if they didn't go through or it didn't work out. They have been given the chances to try to do something, and it's in those instances where knowing someone really helps you. You still have to have the skill set, you still have to have the background and foundation, and you have to be good at what you're doing, but to get a one-up, get those chances compared to others who are still at your same level, it's really about knowing people.
Yep, I completely agree, and it's about how much effort and work you're willing to put in as well, because like you said, you have to have the skills too. You're not going to be, I would think, I could be wrong, but you're not going to be a doctor you're not going to get accredited by the board or get your license to practice medicine if you don't have the skills, right? It's not like you're just going to go and be like, oh, I know that surgeon, so now I'm a doctor. You know what I'm trying to say? I said it in a weird way, but you know what I'm trying to say. So yeah, you definitely have to have the skills. You have to be able to put in the effort. And like I mentioned earlier, it's how can you add value when you're trying to be successful, when you're trying to build a successful team. The questions you need to ask yourself, and it needs to be mutual, is how can we add value to each other? It shouldn't be a one-way street. If it's a one-way street, you don't have a partnership there.
Yeah.
So
a good example. This is just a random example, but I was just watching Gilmore Girls. Rory, known for being the best student ever, straight A's, all that. So she has that background. But to get into Yale, her grandpa went there and knows the dean of admissions and was like, "Hey, let's have a meeting." She still did all the work, crazy work, super smart, still applied and everything. But she met the dean already with her grandpa, so she's in. That's a one side. That's just like, it sucks, but it's life.
It is life.
Kind of.
Yeah, and life, and this is something that, I think a lot of times we get under the misconception that life needs to be fair, has to be fair. The reality is life is not fair, and and we live in the United States of America. We are founded on capitalism. Capitalism involves competition. And if you're afraid of competition, if you're afraid to compete with other people, it's going to be very, very difficult to make it.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have to be okay competing with others. You have to be okay with putting in the work.
Working hard.
Working hard, putting in the hours, putting in the long days, and into the craft that you want to build.
Yeah, but right? You determine your success. So if you don't want to put in that hard work, you don't have to.
Yeah, that's true.
But you can't complain about it.
That's true. Yeah,
that's something,
To your point, you can just go work a 9 to 5 and collect a paycheck, and there's nothing wrong with that. The world needs all kinds of people, right? But if you want to build something, if you want to create a business, build a podcast, build a brand, whatever you want to build there, it's going to require hard work. It's going to require time. It's going to require sacrifice. It's going to require you to look at it from a long-term vision versus instant gratification. Now, there's an exception to everything. There are some people who have really good ideas and get success, right off the bat. And then there's people who it takes more time to develop. And then there's people who take a longer time to develop. You have to be in it for the long run and not just for the immediate success. And that's something that we constantly learn and get a deeper understanding for. Because I would be lying to you if there wasn't times where I'm like, well, what can we do today to become a millionaire tomorrow? And the reality is, at least right now, I don't think I have the skill sets to make that happen. Is it in me? 100%. I just haven't fine-tuned, what are the things about me that I can market or that I'm good at, and I'm still trying to figure all that out. But I'm starting, and I'm working through it, and I'm going through it, even if I fail.
Yeah.
And just continuing to go.
It's hard with life because everything is such instant gratification that when you see people who have money are born into money in certain ways. Everyone has their own circumstances because life isn't fair. I mean, that's life. You think, how come I'm not here yet?
Yeah.
And that has been something that I'm always working towards is, okay, yes, I can work my job and do stuff on the side, but it's not going to be overnight. Podcast is not going to be overnight. We have to put in that work. It doesn't just happen, and we need to understand that most things in life are not scrolling and watching short clips where you get that instant gratification, or you buy something and it ships the next day and you have it on your doorstep in a couple hours. The good things that last a long time in life take a lot of time.
It does. That's why I have such a deep appreciation for working out. Working out is one of those things. Having a good physique is one of those things that you cannot buy. I guess to an extent nowadays, you cannot
buy. You can kind of buy it, but that still takes a long time of recovery.
You cannot buy. You cannot make up. You cannot lie to yourself. Like at the end of the day, the person that you see in the mirror, the person that looks back at you in the mirror, that is your competition. That is your biggest competition, and you have to, in my opinion, you have to work to create the best version of yourself. If you have a good physique, you're already telling me that you are disciplined. Yeah. That you are okay with hard work. You have that routine. You put in the effort. That you have routine. That you have consistency. And so all of that I think is important when you're evaluating. If you're trying to build.
And
a team
they're okay with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. So
because they'll be miserable lifting all those weights to build that muscle. Yeah. They're good with, having a strict diet. There's so many things you can tell about a person based on that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, all of this is all related. I mean, so let's talk a little bit more about what our episode is today, and that's more about failure, right? Being okay with failing and how to get through that. So last episode we mentioned towards the end, after we had our technical difficulty or technical issue, that right after our camera died, right after our camera died, we went to check on our dogs, and my father-in-law had told me that, hey, Ella hasn't been eating for the last couple of days. I don't know what else to do. I've tried water, I've tried chicken broth, I've tried chicken, I've tried what is it called? Not dry food, canned food. Yeah, soft canned food. So I don't know. And so she was turning 12 in July. She would have turned 12. And so, I just kind of had a feeling already. I said, okay, well, I think I know what it is going to be. This has been, the last two dogs that we lost as well was very similar. So, and they were about the same age. So took her to the emergency room and got some x-rays done, got some blood work done, got the results a couple hours later. And sure enough, what had happened was she had 2 tumors. One of them was right on her chest. It was about like a fist and a half big. And then she had one on her kidney, and so just her body was shutting down. And so I knew what decision I had to make. It's never an easy decision. It's not a decision that I like to look forward to, but we had to put our dog down. And then that was Sunday, and so we do Sunday dinners with our families. And so my parents come over. We're all together, like her parents, my parents, my brother, my sister. We're all together, and we have Sunday dinners. We've had that since we've moved back. And so we're going through the day. We're using dinner, as a memorial for Ellen essentially, and we, just talked about some stories with her and just really just enjoyed the time together. Anyways, long story short, I went to bed, and I didn't think anything of it. I was just super tired. It had been a long day. I woke up the very next morning, and I'm brushing my teeth. And as I'm brushing my teeth, just something, when you get that feeling of something's not right, just something was unsettling me. And I just start going through my day from yesterday. And I was like, okay, well, it could be, the Ella situation. And then it just boom, it just hit me. I was like, wait a minute. I didn't post my day picture on my Instagram. And then as soon as I said that, I was like, wait a minute. I don't think I took my progress picture. Because if you do the tasks, posting is not part of the task. That's not part of the requirements.
No, but so you gotta mark off those.
But you gotta mark off those days. So
that's his to-do list thing.
Yes, it's a to-do list. But so, anyways, posting on like that the day is complete is not part of the requirements. You just have to do the critical tasks. So if I would have taken a picture, that Sunday, I would have been fine. I wouldn't have failed. It would have all counted. But when I remembered, I was like, wait, I didn't post on Instagram. Wait a minute, I don't think I took my progress picture. And so I'm brushing my teeth, and I pull out my phone and I scroll, and there was a bunch of pictures of Ella that we took, the last day with her. And then I see one progress picture, and I click it, and it said Saturday at the headline. And I was like, yep, I did not take my progress picture. And I mean this with all honesty. In that moment, I just started laughing. I was like, huh? And Lynn's like, what happened? And she comes into the bathroom. She's like, what happened? And I was like, oh, I didn't take my progress picture. And she's like, what? And I was just
I was more upset than he was. I was like angry and sad for him. I wanted to cry and also smack him for forgetting it.
I was like, I didn't take my progress pictures. Just with everything going on yesterday, I just forgot. Like, I'm not making any excuses. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I just forgot.
I was like, you didn't mark off the boxes. You have the app.
She was mad.
Freaking out. I was so upset for him that I was just shocked that he missed it.
She was mad, so I was like, no, I didn't. I completely forgot to look at the app.
And then I felt badly too.
Well, the app gives you, the app gives you a, what's it called? A reminder at 11 p.m. Again, just some quick reminders of the way the program works. The day doesn't end at midnight. The day ends when your day is done. So if that means your day is done at 1, at 2, it's whenever you're going to bed, that's when the day is done. So anyways, there's a reminder that goes off on your phone at 11 p.m. just letting you know, like, hey, don't forget, did you get all your tasks done? And that entire week had just been a long week for me from work, so I had been staying up till 11:30. So there was 2 or 3 times, I think, in the week that I got the notification. I was like, oh yeah, I gotta check this off. I was done with everything, but I just forgot to check them off. And so that night, Sunday, I think I was in bed by like 9:30. So I didn't stay up late and I didn't get the reminder and I just completely forgot. Like, again, there's no excuse. I just completely forgot. Again, Lynn was freaking out. She's like, how could you forget? Like, I feel so sorry. And she's like hugging me. She's like, are you okay? And I'm just laughing. I'm like, I promise you, I'm fine.
He had
like,
a way better reaction than I cried when I forgot my progress photo. I was upset. And he was just like, it's fine. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that.
I'm like, this is comical. It is what it is. I'm not going to sit there and cry over spilled milk. Like, it's done. It happened. I failed.
He was on
like,
day 43.
42, I think. I was like, there's nothing I can do. Like, it's done. And so she's like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I have to reassess and figure out what's next. Part of me at that time was like, well, I don't have to redo it. I think I've built the discipline that I wanted to build. I think I'm fine. And that thought went through my head. But then the other thought that went through my head was, you failed, get back on the horse and redo it and get it done. Like, don't just leave things, halfway done. And so I just told her, I was like, well, I think I need to make some adjustments. Let me go to work and let me just figure out what I'm going to do next. And then I'll talk to you about it and we'll go from there. And I was like, but most likely I'm going to redo it. And if you want to redo it with me, we can do it again together. And she goes, okay. So I went to work. I was telling people are asking, it was Monday, so people were asking, like, how's your weekend? So I told them about our dog. I told them about failing 75 hard. But I was like, I continued the cold plunging. Like, cold plunging streak is still alive and well, so I was pretty geeked about that. I think if I would have missed that, I would have been upset because that one is not that hard to do. It doesn't take that much time, and I'm over 170 days.
Yeah.
So
I would have cried.
I would have been frustrated for that one. But anyways, I tell everyone, like, hey, this happened. I appreciate the support that people were giving me. Like, given the circumstances, like, that shouldn't have happened. It should totally count. Like, you should still continue.
Says.
And I'm like, no, I failed. You gotta have integrity about it. You have to be honest about it. The way the program works is you start back from day one. So, the rest of the week continues. I think Wednesday night, or Thursday morning, one of the two, is when I told Lynn, hey, I'm ready. I'm starting Friday. I'm gonna fine tune my notes and make the adjustments I need to make. And we'll discuss like my game plan and we'll talk about it and let you know what I'm going to do. But if you want to join me on Friday's when I start. If we start Friday, that means our 75th day is going to be September 10th. It's going to be, a couple days after your birthday. I'm sorry. Originally, we were going to be done before your birthday so we could celebrate it a little bit more. But again, if you want to start with me, you can. If not, I'm starting. And she goes, no, you just let me fine tune my stuff and then I will start together. And I said, all right, perfect. So we made our adjustments. I'll talk about that here shortly. I have it in my book. But yeah, at the end of the day, I failed. Things happen. Life's going to throw curveballs at you, and it is what it is. But if it's something that you really want, you just pick yourself back up and you make the adjustments. You learn the lessons and you get back after it. You can't sit there and cry about it. You can't sit there and wallow about it. You can't sit there and put yourself in a funk or in a groove and say life's not fair. Life is going to continuously not fair, and you just have to keep pushing, keep persevering, and keep getting better. And just there's a quote that I like. I think The Rock says this, but he says that he wants to be the kind of person that when he gets up and his feet touch the ground, the devil says, "Ah, crap, he's up." And so I just think that's beautiful. I think that's awesome. So you just have to keep pushing, keep persevering. Don't give up. If it's something you really want, fitness, investing, real estate, self-development, starting a business, all these different things, like, don't give up. Just keep going through it. And yeah, that's kind of what happened with me. That was my failure.
Well, I appreciate you sharing, because that's sad, but now we're in it together. I think it's good for you to fail, even though you had a very chill reaction. It's your first time failing the 75 hard challenge. So what did you take from that after being so far along, and how are you viewing the restart and failure?
I appreciate the question because No, I appreciate it because it humbled me.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, it may be cliche to say that, but it really did, because the first time I did 75 hard straight through, I didn't fail.
He did it extra. He did 100 days.
And I went 100 days. And I would be lying to you if I didn't say that. My ego and the cockiness didn't increase with it, because I was like, oh, I could do this. This is easy. Failing at this time humbled me to the point where I realized that I'm okay humbling. How do I say this? I was okay failing because like I mentioned earlier, I felt like I was not giving it my all.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was just kind of cruising through it and it was too easy.
Yeah.
Like a program like this needs to be difficult.
Well,
Now,
I think
I'm
I
not,
mentioned that to
you
you
did.
too.
Now, and I'm not saying that I'm using that as a justification to make it easier that I failed. No, like I failed. I took my lickings. It is what it is. But what I mean though is I realized that I was lacking integrity in the program and lying to myself because of that. I was not going all out. I was leaving some energy on the table. And so although I was getting what I wanted out of it in terms of reading more, being disciplined, being consistent, making those adjustments, I was getting everything I wanted out of it. I still didn't feel satisfied with myself knowing that I was leaving things on the table.
Yeah,
I was
you
leaving
weren't
effort on the
pushing
table.
yourself
I wasn't pushing
further.
myself further. So this experience taught me to humble myself more and don't ever think that I'm invincible. Don't ever think that I can't, fail or things like that. I think that kind of behavior, that kind of thinking is what gets us in trouble because we feel like, no, I'm gonna start this business and I'm not gonna take any losses, or I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm not gonna be sore, or I'm not gonna do this, or I'm not gonna do. I mean, that maybe that second example didn't apply as much, but the first example for sure.
Yeah.
Because there have been many times in my life, school. I've said this before. There's been many times in my life where I say, no, I don't need to study for that test. I'll figure it out. I got it. And then that kind of cockiness, that kind of ego does not help you be productive.
No.
It just destroys you. It's counterproductive because when you try and break that, it's one of the hardest things to break. For me, it's one of the hardest things to break, especially if I do pass. And even if it's just, barely passing, but I do pass, it gives you that sense of false, what's the word? False confidence.
Confidence, yeah.
Because you're like, oh, hey, I proved it right there. I didn't need to study, and I still passed. That means I don't need to study anymore, right? And so it gives you that false confidence.
Well, it's like the idea of quitting. Once you quit once, it's a lot easier to quit more because you don't see the effects until way later down the road.
Yep, agree, and that's a great point. One of the I may have talked about this, but one of the few regrets I have is quitting football my senior year. I don't think maybe I haven't talked about this, but one thing, I was at that point in my life where I was immature, and I saw things only from my perspective and how they affected me, and not looked at it as a whole. Now, long story short, a decision was made by the coaches. I didn't agree with it because I was being selfish, and so I kind of quit on the spot. I quit the next day, actually, but it was out of emotion, 100%. Because of that, I didn't pursue one of my biggest dreams ever, which was playing college football. Now, I wasn't fooling myself thinking that I was going to be a Division I athlete, but I was definitely comfortable and confident that I could go to a junior college, go D3, something like that, and just play at the college level. That was honestly what I really wanted more than to play at the NFL level, which was hilarious. I don't know. I really love college ball. College ball is what I watch more than I watch the NFL. Now, don't get me wrong. Would I have loved and had aspirations to make it to the league? 100%. But if I couldn't make it to the league, I would felt really accomplished making it to college.
Yeah.
That was my biggest dream at that time. And when I quit, everything was very hard for me. My world changed. My sense of purpose, my sense of who I was, my identity changed. And it was something that to this day has really affected me in different ways. And I've had to deal with those demons at different stages in life. But I will say that decision also led me to you. Because if I did not quit and I would have continued playing, I know I would have gone junior college and at least attempted it, and we probably wouldn't be together because I would have had to move out of state. So I say that not to justify the quitting. That's not what I'm saying. That's a whole different conversation. I'm saying it more to how decisions still impact you on a different level. Yeah. But relating it to the failure part, after I quit football, I also ran track. I also did track. I did discus, shot put, and then ran the 100 and 200. When track came around, I wasn't as motivated to train. I wasn't as motivated to go compete and do all this other stuff. And because I had already quit football, it made it so much easier to go to my coach and say, I'm done. And it was a pattern like that I went through for a couple of years in my life. It was sports, then that transitioned to school, and then that transitioned to work, to my professions, the different careers that I've held. And so I've realized that, and we talked about this recently, what I've realized is that when things got harder, things didn't go my way at one point in my life, I would just quit.
Yeah.
I would quit. And because I got the taste of that, it made it so much easier to quit other things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that I've had to work through and work out of and be okay, now being okay with things getting hard and sticking through it and working through it if it's something you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the key. Because I'm not saying be miserable somewhere that you're miserable at just because you don't want to quit. You have to make different adjustments for the lifestyle that you want to live. But if it's something that you truly want, it's a goal that you're truly, truly trying to reach, don't quit. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So that's where I stand with that.
And I think you have to find a clear line between discipline and are you miserable?
Mm-hmm.
Because things are going to be really hard to do things that you really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Fitness, good example. It's going to be really hard going to the gym every single day early in the morning. It's going to be really hard maintaining a healthy diet when everyone around you is eating crap.
Yeah.
You're going to be miserable. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
But the results you want to get are going to be worth it. So when people quit, I don't think we're always...
Wow. Well, you guys are experiencing this live. We just had a little power outage, but our camera is still recording, so we are still going. Continue.
That's cool. Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Yeah, continue.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's all working
Hey,
still.
this is one of those moments where you make the adjustment and you just keep on going. So go.
We had a whole house power outage. Oh my gosh. So I think what people just don't think about is the end results of what quitting will bring. So if you keep pushing, in your diet and fitness, the end result will be you're going to lose weight, you're going to be healthy, hopefully you'll live longer. But quitting in between there, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to be obese and unhealthy and get an illness. You don't think about that. You're just like, oh, I'll stay how I am. And I think that's the perspective, is knowing the effects quitting can have down the road. Because Alex now experiences those that happened 5-10 years ago.
More,
even
like 12
longer.
years ago.
Some even longer.
Yeah.
So, that's...
Yeah, and it's true, because, and don't get me wrong, I haven't fully conquered it. There's moments in my life where I'm like, oh my God, I just want to throw in the towel. And if I just throw in the towel, life will be so much easier. But I know it's not the discipline that I want. It's not and it's something that I actually want to chase, something that I want to get better at. And so I have to battle those battles. I have to battle those demons with myself and just realize that it's not worth it in the end. I've done that too much in my life. I don't want to do that anymore. That's not the example I want to set for Rhaegar. That's not the example I want to set for my family, for you, for any future children that God blesses with. So I need to be the standard, right? If I feel like there's a standard I'm trying to reach, I need to be that standard and continue to develop and continue to get better at it. Because quitting isn't going to do anything. Quitting is just going to put you in a hole. It's just going to put you in potentially a mental distress, affect your mental health, affect your emotional health.
Battle that you're dealing with.
Right? So it's not worth it. Now, if you have quit and you're trying to get yourself out of it, that is a tough battle to go through. It's not impossible. You can come out of it. You can conquer it. You just have to work at it, little by little, chip away at it, and learn from the lessons. Learn from the mistakes of quitting. Learn from those failures. Those are failures, right? Yeah. And so learn from them. Make those adjustments.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. That's a lot. I mean, I know it's something that we've always been constantly talking about, and it's a lot going on. So I'm sure he'll be sharing further down the road, especially with restarting 75 hard and all the other things you're working towards on starting.
Yeah. Well, hold on. I'm not the only one going to be put on the hot seat. I'm going to put you on the hot seat.
Why?
Because it all relates. Hold on, it all relates. So
I'm always in the hot seat.
You've had some sports that you've quit. For whatever reasons they were. How has that affected you in your growth in your life?
Well, I don't like to think about it because so I played softball and I was very good at it.
You started varsity as a freshman.
I was a varsity starting catcher. And I love softball. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't like the coach, and it was a really unhealthy dynamic that just with the school and everything too. And then I was moved down. They moved me down to JV for a game because I broke the pitcher on varsity broke my nose, and I was like, I can't play because she broke my nose, and it was the next day we had a game, so they moved me down to JV because I wouldn't play. And honestly, I didn't like the coach enough to sacrifice and play. I would have played in all my youth times of doing that. I've played in way worse conditions, but the pitcher literally hit me in the face with a ball without even paying attention. So I was pretty upset and peeved about that. So they moved me down to JV, and I quit on the spot. My dad came. I was young, and I was just barely 15 in high school because I'm a younger starter in school. And my dad came down, said some words to the coach, and I quit on the spot as I was walking down to the JV field. Which it was very dramatic, and I don't like drama, so it was very stressful for me, but it was really hard because my mom, she played softball in college, and that was the ultimate goal for me too, but in that instance, it was just a lot happening, and I wasn't in the healthiest mental state either at that point, so quitting that after that, I did coaching and stuff because I am a certified softball coach, which helped kind of fulfill those spaces. But it is something I wonder because I was really good at it is where could I have been now? Could I have done something more professional and continued in college? So that's something that will always stay with me too, like Alex with football. So maybe coaching is something I could look to in the future. But I also really tried to kind of close that book and find other things that I really like. I did also Aikido. I haven't trained that in a really long time, but that's more kind of like a lifestyle that you live and practice, and it's always kind of with you. But I think softball was the biggest one where since all of that's happened in the last few years, I kind of closed that book and tried to find passions other places. So sourdough is a good one of something I really like to do. Hiking is another physical thing that I really like to do. Just other ways to put in my athletic abilities so, you don't lose them, but trying to find other loves because of the whole situation, softball was kind of tarnished for me specifically. So I don't think I'd ever want to hop back into the game. And I think I just hold somewhat resentment towards it and just negative associations. So I try to find others.
Gotcha. Would you say that because of that experience in softball more so, that any other times that you've quit things as an adult or, growing up, do you feel like that has affected you?
I think more so, instead of quitting, it's caused me fear to start things.
Okay.
Because I didn't want, it's more like trust issues. I didn't want to have potential of losing it again or having a really bad experience. So even if I wanted to try a different martial art at this age, or I wanted to try like swimming or just random sports and athletics of any kind of thing, I think it just makes me afraid to start, which I know we talked about starting in the beginning. It didn't make me quit. I'm still really bad at quitting because I'm OCD and like to finish everything. That's why I was like, why didn't you mark off the list at the end of the day? So stressful. But starting, if I don't start it, I don't have to finish it. So it's more inhibits me from starting
Gotcha.
things.
That makes sense. Now I want to ask this because I know your dad, right? Obviously he's my in-law. But would you say, and I don't know if you've thought about this, but would you say that the way your dad reacted justified your feelings of quitting?
100%. My dad had my back, man. He was just like, she's the best player here. You can't believe you're moving her. It was like, but he did it in a respectful way because my dad makes a show.
Yeah.
But
But my question was more so.
It's embarrassing.
My question was more so, if you had any doubt of quitting, and maybe you recognized it, maybe not in the moment, but later on you recognized that you quit out of emotion, as you mentioned. If your dad did not react that way, do you think you would have acted differently, or do you feel like you would
probably
have?
would have stayed because I was just walking down to the JV field when he came there and grabbed me and we left and he said all of that. So I don't even think I physically was like, I quit. I think we just left.
So then here's my driving point with that. I'm glad you said that. Here's my driving point with that. Because I think that this is an important lesson.
Yeah.
Tying it to parents. Because a lot of times, at least our friends and family who are parents, they have their kids in athletic events, and that's something that we want to do, right, with Rhaegar and any future children, is we want them to be active and participating in sports. So here's my question. How important is it for a parent to not encourage your child to quit in the middle of a season? Now, if it's not after you try it and then you don't like it, that's different. You can pivot and make a different take a different approach to a different sport or different activity. But you quit in the middle of a season. I quit in the middle of a season. So how do you, like, as a parent, how important is it to teach your children to push through that? Unless, let me make my disclaimer here. Unless it's something like that shouldn't be happening or there's a safety concern involved.
Yeah.
That's a different conversation. But if everything's good, normal, fine, it's just, you either disagree with the decisions or you disagree with, like, there's no safety or risk involved. How important is it for you to teach your children to not quit in moments like that, in emotional moments?
You have the number one job in those moments. You put your kid in there. You do not get them out in the middle. And I think it's a couple things. First of all, it shows them it's easy to quit. Second of all, it takes complete responsibility away from them. It puts it on the parents. So they say, Mommy, Daddy, they'll do it for me, whatever. And then third, they totally are gonna not trust you anymore. Because you said at your word you're doing this. You started them into it. You're making them do it. Maybe they didn't even want to do it. And then you're letting them leave early. They will never, ever trust that you are going to hold firm on your promises. They are going to push constantly from there on everything that you say. And I talked about this quite a few episodes ago. You need to have that foundation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, even if you don't have if you're not going to church regularly, talking about God regularly, but you're preaching all this stuff, they're going to go out into the world and question that because you are not firm in your beliefs and holding true to that. So it's the same thing with sports. If you're putting them in sports and then you're like, oh, you don't like it, sweetie, it's hard, you're hot standing out there, let's quit. You don't have to go to practice today, or you don't have to do that today. They're going to waver on every single thing you say, every rule you set. The rest of the time they're living under your roof, maybe even out of it.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with our family, with our friends, with
just people we know.
When you have that, I don't know if that's gentle parenting nowadays. I don't really even know the definition of that modern stuff that's happening. But you need to be strict. You started this. My mom was so strict with me. She made me, I did the summer camps for basketball, and even though I was miserable in the beginning, she made me still go every single day, like 6 hours a day. By the end of it, I was like, I got an award for ball handling. I did this. Even if you're seeing how hard it is, because it takes hard work to be successful, your kids are going to come out learning something, having friends, learning they don't like it. Like, there's so many benefits to staying in there. Yeah. And I think it's the parents' 100% responsibility. The kid's not going to sign themselves up for these sports and whatever they're doing. You are bringing that to them unless they're in school and then come to you and say, hey, I want to do this. But you're still taking action on it. And I think it's all of us parents' responsibilities to maintain that and hold true to our word.
Yeah, I agree. And
that's a way deeper reaction to it. But
I appreciate that. And I appreciate this came up because this is how I see it the same way as well. But for you and I, it was two different experiences. Because for you, your dad was very vocal. And from what you're saying, if you can't remember, essentially just kind of quit for you. And he's just like, we're done.
Yeah,
right?
I don't even think I quit, honestly.
On my side, when I came home and I told my parents, like, I'm done, or I quit already. I can't remember if I told them before or after. Like, none of them questioned it. None of them were like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Or I honestly, I don't want to. Maybe they did. I don't think they did. or if they did, it wasn't like a push. They just kind of were like, maybe they just asked me, is this what you want to do? And then I said, yeah. And then they left it at that. They didn't question it anymore. And I'm not blaming my parents. I don't think you're blaming your parents either. But what I want to say is, and I hope my brother doesn't get mad that I share this, is I had that experience with him. My brother is 10 years younger than me. And so early on in his life, he had tried different activities. He tried basketball, he tried karate, before that, he tried, I think, track in middle school. I can't remember. Anyways, he had tried different activities, but when things got hard, he quit. And I remember one year, I was just so frustrated that after this activity that he quit. The cello. And then the piano, the guitar, because he was doing really good.
Cello.
And so that was one of them. But anyways, he quit or he stopped doing them. And I was like, bro, if you just stick and stay disciplined, you would be so good. It's hard. Yes, it's hard. I get it. You don't want to go through it, but life is hard. Just go through it. Like, don't quit in the middle of something. I promise you're going to regret it. And he got to high school, and I can't remember why, but he had just asked me. He's like, "Hey, I'm interested in playing football." That's what it was. My mom told me to talk to him because my mom's never been a football fan. She just doesn't want us to get hurt. Typical mom stuff. So she's just like, "Hey, just talk to your brother." She's like, "Just talk to your brother. Maybe he, you can convince him." I'm like, "I'm not going to convince him. Like, I'm going to tell him. I'm going to be honest with him." And this is what I said. I said, I'm going to be honest with him and push him that if he wants my blessing, which he didn't need, but for some reason he talked to me. He's like, "Hey, like, I want to try football. What do you think?" And I was very honest with him. I said to him, "If you start football, you better not quit in the middle of the season. Like, that is the only way I will agree and sign off on this." I don't even know why I said it that way. I don't even know why I felt like I had to sign off on it.
In those days, it was okay.
Yeah, but anyways, I was just like, I will not sign off on this. Like, you have quit everything you've tried when things get hard. Football is hard. You cannot quit in the middle of the season.
How hard it is.
It's not doing anything for you. Stop quitting in the middle of stuff when things get hard. If you're going to go through this, promise me that you're going to stick through it. And he said, "I promise." I said, "Okay." I co-sign on it, whatever. Middle of the season, he got injured. He hurt his foot. Immediately thinking about quitting. I looked at him, and I don't know if it was just out of frustration. Probably was, but I can't remember what it was for. But we sat down together, and I said, "If you quit right now, you will be a quitter for the rest of your life. You need to be an asset to your team, even if you cannot play, even if you can't work out, even if things are getting difficult. You be an asset to your team. You encourage your team. You help your teammates. You bring them water. You do everything for the team. Don't quit. When the season ends, if you don't ever want to do this again, then you don't have to do this again. But do not quit, because if you quit right now, you will be a loser and a quitter for the rest of your life." And thank God, I don't know if it was that, but thank God he stuck through it.
Yeah.
Like, he was pissed. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, he didn't talk to me for a while. He was very upset at me. But he stuck to it. And we had a conversation later on in life when he grew older. And I was like, I'm just curious, what did that lesson teach you anything? Like, not quitting did teach you anything? He's like, "Yeah, actually, I really appreciate it because you've taught me not to quit. You've helped teach me not to quit when things get harder." And there's been times where, again, it's old habits that are hard to kill, because as he grew out of high school and he got into the workforce, immediately started having, not immediately, but then when he started having conflicting issues with his boss or with his job, already like, I'm going to quit. I'm like, "Bro, you've been there for like a day." It wasn't a day, but he hadn't even been there a long time. I was like, "You're going to have this anywhere you go. This is the real world." So leverage the things while you're there. Leverage, learning leadership or learning your position or leverage the skills, the opportunity that you have there. Find something better. And then once you find something better, if it still makes sense, make that transition. But don't just quit out of emotion. Like, I'm so tired of quitting out of emotion, of people quitting out of emotion, that this is why I'm kind of passionate about it.
Yeah, well, and you can kind of see it with me because I didn't really quit softball. So I think it translates is I have been raised to not quit, and I think it's in my personality type too, because I've only had 3 jobs my whole time, and I started working when I was 17. My first one, I was there for 5 years. I talked about like wanting to quit because they were really bad, but I was there for 5 years. My next one, I was there for 3 years. Now I'm at my current one, and I've stayed consistently through those.
Yeah, I agree. Well, yeah, I agree.
We could share it, to be honest.
That's hilarious.
Our baby's awake.
Yeah.
I can hear him crying.
Rhaegar just woke up, so we're actually going to cut this podcast off really quick here shortly. We're going to land this
fun podcast. Power outage, computer issues.
This is a fun one. These are the technical difficulties that we're still working through. But anyways, no, I mean, real quick, make your point. He might be fine right now.
I think that was my point.
Okay. No, okay, perfect. So then the last thing I'll share is, as parents, it's our responsibility to be that, what's it called? To be that sounding board for our children, and be that line that holds that consistency and say, hey, really think this through. Ask these questions. Why do you want to quit? Challenge them. And again, it's just in the middle. I'm talking about in the middle of a season. If it's the season's over and they don't want to do it anymore, that's a whole different conversation. But in the middle of a season, in the middle of things getting tough, we should not allow our children to quit. We need to push them to go through
and
it, to push that adversity, too. Right? And not be afraid of failure, because that's going to set them up for future success in life. If we allow them to quit, if we allow them to get a taste of that, it's just going to help set them back, and that's not what we want, right?
They'll just want more.
They'll just want more. So, anyways, we appreciate your guys' time with us as always. I was going to share real quickly. We can share what adjustments we're making just for the accountability purposes for 75 Hard. So I'll mention this.
As you're opening that, I'm doing just no processed, like ultra processed foods, and no fast food, trying to stay away from sugar for my diet, but everything else staying the same.
Perfect. For me, everything's staying the same except for diet. I made an adjustment, and I'm adding one additional thing that is not part of the requirement, but it's important to me. So my diet, no fast food, no deep fried food, all that's staying the same. No candy, no overly processed food, or ultra processed food, I think is what you said it's called. And then the only dessert I can have right now is a homemade ice cream that we make that is keto friendly.
It's make it with maple syrup,
super simple.
So no sugar.
It is maple syrup, organic maple syrup. It's 4 eggs and then heavy whipping cream, and then in the ice cream machine it's super simple, and a little bit of vanilla, and so it's super simple to make, and it's very carnivore and keto friendly. But then after that, I'm changing from a ancestral diet to more back to macro counting, and it's a rotational carb. I'm trying the rotational carb. Actually, Andy talked about it in the book, and then that's the diet he followed, and I thought it was interesting because carbs are my kryptonite. So the way it's going to work is my macros are 80 to 100 grams of fat a day, protein 180 to 200 grams, and then my carb rotation is going to be high, moderate, low, and none. So for my high day, 150, my moderate, 100, my low, 50, and my none, no carbs other than the natural carbs that you'll find in veggies and fruit. I won't eat fruit that day. It'll just be what you find in veggies and in greens. And then that'll be my carb intake for that day. The only caveat I will say is I will make potentially a slight moderation, not to the diet itself. Well, I guess, how would it work? Just when I go hunting, I just need to make sure that I'm still taking in the amount of calorie intake that I need to be taking, or probably more. So when I say the changes, I'll probably just increase the macros that I can have while I'm out hunting, because I'll be using a lot more energy. But I'm not going to divert from the no fast food, the no processed foods, the no candy, the no, things like that. I'm going to stick to this diet. That's what I'm going to do. And then my extra thing that I'm doing is the Bible. I mentioned this when we first started 75 Hard, and I did not make that a priority. I need to be better about that. I want to strengthen my relationship with God. So a critical task for me, 75 Hard Alex edition, which isn't even a thing, but I'm just making it a thing for myself, is I'm adding reading scripture daily. If I do not read scripture daily, I'm going to consider that a failure, and I'm starting the program all over.
Oh, good. I like that.
Because it's important to me, and I need to make it a priority. And in the past I hadn't, because it wasn't a critical task, and that's not going to fly for me, because my relationship with God that I want to continue to increase is very important to me, and so that's why I'm making that a rule for me.
That's awesome.
Cool. All right. Other than that, baby is waking up. He's getting a little bit more. He's calm right now, but he's getting fussy. So we'll land this plane. Appreciate your guys' time with us as always. Hopefully you find some value in this. And we'll see you guys next week. Go out there and shatter your limits in the sun. God bless.
Bye, guys.